This is one of the most amazing games that I ever had playing World of Tanks, and I've played over 30,000 games. This tank has the max view range maxed out with situational awareness, recon, etc., not including the directives and not including the enhanced or the improved equipment. So it has coated optics, binocs, etc. What I'm going to do is I'm going to spot 3 different tanks that appear to be fully within the bushes on their side, but yet I'm still going to spot them. And you're going to see some strange things I've never seen before. Okay, look at that T10. He appears to be fully hidden within the bushes, but yet he's spotted. But watch what happens. He's going to disappear, but then he's going to appear again without moving. Isn't that amazing? Never seen that happen before. He's going to disappear again. There's going to be an incoming artillery strike. And then in a few seconds, he's going to appear again as he reverses. And this strange behavior, you're going to see something even more substantial than this. Okay, now watch what happens with the RU-251. The RU-251 is going to appear in a moment. And there he is. Now notice that he wasn't moving. He was still. He was motionless. And the Waffenträger, watch that Waffenträger. Look at that Waffenträger. Fully behind the bushes, yet I was able to spot him. And I don't know why this happened, other than the fact that I have maximized my view range, and then I spotted the RU-251 again. And I tried to get as close as I could to the enemy for spotting purposes to see if I could spot them through the bushes. That's actually what I was trying to do, and it absolutely worked. If you have any questions or comments, please post below. This tank is the AMX-30. It's a French Tier 9 medium tank, and the map is Sacred Valley. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a sniping position that's going to allow me to hit the rear flank or the side flank of tanks that are in the southeast position. If you watch my videos, you're going to see me do this in other videos previously recorded to this one. The AMX-30 is a wonderful tank. I'm really glad I got it. I really love the gun on it. It is fun to play. It's a lot like the Leopard PTA. However, I do like this tank better. So what I usually do is I come to this position and I look for targets to shoot at. And it's as easy as that. And he's tracked. So I'm getting some spotting in, plus I'm doing some damage. Ouch. I did 1,100 damage. I got hit for 1,400 damage by that tank. What I'm finding is lately a lot of tanks are showing up in this position. Either they're there at the start of the game, which means you got to watch out for it because they're spotting tanks coming through here. If they don't spot you, just roll right in. But when you get here, it's very important that you don't get spotted. To avoid being spotted, you have to be either closer, farther away from the enemy, but you also want to be far away from being proximity spotted by tanks that are up on this hill area. If you get spotted over here, you have to have really good situational awareness because you can get hit from behind, and the tanks that sit up there are often going to be tank destroyers. So let's move on to the next video. This tank is the Ram 2. This is a Canadian medium tank in the American tech tree. Tier 5. It's also a premium tank. I'm going to get 1,700 damage, 5 kills, and I'm going to do 1,200 EXP. This is a tank that it's very easy to get a lot of kills with because it's a fast-firing gun. So what happens is if enemy tanks are low on hit points, you can go and hit them again and again and again. It used to be very difficult to make that climb, but it's a lot easier now. And from here you can spot quite a distance. I rarely go to this location. So you can see I was able to spot the KV-1S. If you have a tank destroyer, you can sit in that location and maybe get a lucky shot on tanks crossing over that gap. Usually when you crest a hill, if there's bushes, you want to drive through the bushes. You'll notice that I'm going right through those bushes, heading for the next group of bushes. It's safer to be on the left. You want to be along the slope over here. If you go along the slope this way, it's more easy for enemy tanks to shoot at you or snipe or spot you. So stay on the left against the slope. If you go into town, it's safer. You're protected from artillery, less likely to be spotted. You can see that I spotted a Churchill. So now I want to get on high ground as fast as possible. My artillery is probably going to take shots at him. It looks like he's not in the game. While I'm finding a better position, I'm going to keep on firing using the auto-aim. I am worried about the enemy artillery taking shots at me. It seems... Oh, I switched to the APCR. It took 14 shots to kill that tank. And the enemy SPG did nothing. Like I wasn't spotted. And you'll notice that I did switch back to the regular rounds. So that's 2 kills. Now, once this happens, now you can snipe the enemy from on the rear very easily. That's 3 kills. It's faster to shoot the houses down. I always zoom out because I want to get a good view, and there's disadvantages. But I want to get a good view of the playing field, which is why I zoom out and I use the auto-aim. Obviously, the enemy SPG is right here. You have to come up with a plan how you're going to approach him without his gun being pointed at you. So you have to change your angle of view to get a high angle of view and figure out where he's heading and where his gun is pointing. Obviously, I'm going to go to the right to reduce the chance that he shoots at me. He probably drove away because he wasn't loaded. You'll notice he did try and ram me, but he failed. He failed to do so. So I got 4 kills and 1,500 damage, which is really good for this type of a tank. And there it is, the Hunter. Normally I would not drive through the cap. However, an ally was on the cap. And the reason why is because you don't want the enemy to know where you are. I would make an exception in this case because it's near the end of the game and we are outnumbering the enemy. In order to save money, I am now using a small repair kit, large repair kit, and a large first aid kit. Got rid of the fire extinguisher. I do have firefighting crew skills on many of my crew members. So ramming, I did not do... Oh, I did do some damage. I did 35 damage ramming. That's a total of 1756 damage. I got 140... spotting damage. The score was 15-7, and I did that remaining section with an injured gunner. This tank is the AMX 1357 GF. This is a Tier 7 French premium light tank. The map is hills. I am going to get 2,000 damage in the game. I'm going to flank the enemy. I'm going to head to probably the C8 location, and I'm going to flank the enemy. I'm going to try and hit them in the rear. A few different ways to do it. If you watch my previous videos, there's new concepts that I'm going to have in my latest videos that haven't been shown in the previous videos. This is my favorite tank in the entire game. I wish this were a Tier 10 tank with the Tier 10 characteristics. I love the way it plays in Tier 7. So one thing that you often have to do is knock that house down. Okay, so from this location, the house right over here usually needs to be knocked down. It only takes 2 shots in order to hit the KV-2. The other thing you can do is if you have a powerful engine, you can ride up this slope and shoot over the rock. You'll see me do it with a KV-5. The other thing you can do is you can go backwards here on this slope, and you should be able to hit tanks over the house without knocking the house down. So you've got an alternate position. I'm not in a position where the enemy is going to threaten me because they did not advance. Oh, actually they did. There's a KV-2 and a KV-3. You want to look on the minimap to see if the houses can be knocked down. If they're a dark color, they cannot be destroyed. And obviously if they're a light color, they can be. So what you can do here, you can see I have some difficulty driving. There's bushes right over here. These bushes is where you can spot from. You'll be able to spot the ROM over there and the VK and other tanks. And from behind the house, you can shoot at the KV-3. I have a few problems with the driving because of my latency. So you can see weird things are happening because of the driving. Got about 500 damage. Now I set the KV-3 on fire twice. So I got 1100 damage, I got 700 spotting damage. You got to wait until you become unspotted. The VK is vulnerable. I've only got 2 rounds in my gun right now. Oh, lucky me, lucky me. Bye-bye. And I was not spotted. That's 1,300 damage, 900 spotting damage. So one thing you could do is go over here and turn on your binocs. The other thing you can do is you want to head as close as you can towards the mountain, towards the red line, and close to the ridge over there. But be careful, because if you get to that ridge, some tanks will dive over the ridge to kill you. It depends on how much armor they have. The ROM is less likely to go over because his armor is weak. However, something like an SU-100Y, he might dive over the ridge to go after you if you get too close to him. Got 1,300 damage. Oh, that was lousy. You'll notice that there's a circle of green dashes around the tank, and in theory, your shot is going to land somewhere within that circle. And they changed the dispersion. Before it was concentrated on the center. I don't think it's any longer concentrated on the center. I don't know if they changed it for all tanks or for just artillery, etc. However, because of that, you want your circle to be as small as possible in order to increase your chances of hitting that tank. Obviously, this is a case where you'd have to go for the reload. It looks like the SU-100Y is out of the game. I got 1,800 damage, 1,300 spotting damage. And most people would think that you can't get a lot of spotting damage on this map, but you actually can. So this is the position that you're going to go to on this map, but you have to be careful. Over here you got a solid house, you got bushes to hide in. However, you can be proximity spotted by tanks up on that ridge, and you can proximity spot those tanks. So you have to be careful, because if that happens, you can be shot at or they can come after you. As you can see, the Black Prince, for some reason, pointed his gun in my direction. I don't know why. Oh, you know what? Okay, when I got spotted, there's a delay on the notification, so he had already spotted me a second or two earlier, which is why his gun started swinging around. The other issue is that. Okay. So I got 1,992 damage, 1,300 spotting damage, score 7-5. You'll notice that my ally, the M41 Bulldog, is coming around behind the Black Prince, and it looks like the Black Prince is still pointing his gun at me. So what do you think is going to happen? The Black Prince is not paying attention. The M41 is going to shoot him from behind. Eventually, the Black Prince is probably going to turn his gun around. When he turns his gun around, that's when I'll go forward and take shots at him. You'll see that M41... The M41 did take a shot at the Black Prince and did some damage on him. However, because I was sitting here and I wasn't paying attention, the ROM came up and got close to me and took a shot at me. So lesson learned. What I should have done is obviously gone around to the other side of the house, and I would have still been able to shoot the Black Prince. I probably may have been able to double bush, and everything still would have worked out fine, and the ROM probably would not have come down after me. Okay, so that was 1,992 damage, 1,300 spotting damage. This tank is the Batchat 25 TAP. It's a French Tier 9 medium tank. The map is Mines. I'm going to do 3,000 damage, I'm going to get 4 kills, and I'm going to do 2,500 spotting damage. Because it's a standard match, by driving through here and staying close to spotting range, we can see if enemy tanks are going to be a threat, because they'll be heading into a position in the southwest corner, which is where I need to go to flank the enemy. So we can see that there's one tank there. He'll be easy to kill. Once we get past him, I'm going to set up a rear flank. You can see that there's a Batchat artillery. He'll be easy to deal with. Should have done a handbrake turn. You want to do the handbrake turn, especially on your last shot, because it will put your frontal armor facing the enemy tank, which will give you better defense. And you can do multiple handbrake turns if you got a fast tank. The Batchat's out of the game. Me and the T100 LT are now going to set up a rear flank. And there's a lot of targets. It looks like 5 or 6 tanks we're going to be able to shoot at here. Obviously, that's not a tank that I should be shooting at. So I was able to damage him on one shot, but because I spotted him, I also got 300 spotting damage. And another 100. And it looks like he's out of the game. Score is already 4-1. Now keep in mind that at least 3 of the tanks were taken out because of me and the LT-100. Got to be very careful not to hit your ally. That's 2 kills. Three kills, 1,500 damage, 2,000 spotting damage. Because I have coated optics and binocs, I get a lot of spotting damage, which kicks up your experience. You can get number 1 for EXP simply by spotting with doing 0 damage. And when you get a lot of EXP, you level up your tanks faster, you get the better equipment faster, you get to tier 10 faster. I breezed through this tank. It was no pain at all. Now, this is a situation where I'd rather that my allies help me out. I've only got 2 rounds. He showed me his side armor. Big mistake. Obviously, I should have gone into the sniper mode for that remaining shot. I have over 200 millisecond ping time. It would work in the sniper mode. Score is 8-4. I don't have any allies in a position to destroy the Foch except for the SPG. So obviously if he comes forward towards me, even though he's probably out of ammo, I'm going to reverse. I'm going to put safety first. And as soon as I'm reloaded, I'm going to test him to see if he's got ammo, which it looks like he does. Took a big chance. I didn't know if he was reloaded or not. I believe that tank has 3 rounds, and I only saw him fire 1 round. Okay, so that's 15-5. I got 4 kills. I did 3,081 damage, 2,300 spotting damage. It was a very good game. This tank is the Batchat 25 TAP. This is a French Tier 9 medium tank, and the map is mine. So I am going to get 2,700 damage in this game. What I'm going to do is a rear flank. Someone invited me to a platoon. I always accept platoons. A lot of people have helped me with platoons for missions, so I always return the favor. So you want to head south as much as possible. Notice that this is not an encounter, it's a standard game, so therefore it's easy to tell if anyone has on the enemy team went to the south. We did not spot any enemy tanks headed south, so we know that it's undefended. So you go this way all the way down to the red line, or you can double bush with the bush between those rocks there. And you just line up at the beginning of the game and hit tanks. Now remember, because the game is going to have bigger maps for grand battles and for frontline, etc., it's more important to have the gun laying drive and vertical stabilizer instead of the gun rammer, because you're going to be firing more often at long distance. This tank doesn't have a lot of rounds in it, so you have to be very careful at how you use your ammunition. I'm unsure as to why I have it in this position. Why I'm not. For some reason, I'm not firing my gun. I must have had a technical problem that occurs occasionally. Yeah, I think that I was temporarily out of the game due to lag or something. So I was able to get 890 damage. So these tanks don't have a lot of rounds. It's very easy to run out of ammunition. When you have a tank that doesn't have a lot of ammunition, it's more important to have the gun laying drive and V-stab, because aiming becomes more important than a fast reload. It's going to affect tanks like the Batchat, and the Tehran is another good example. Any other tank that has not enough rounds, or it's going to also affect tanks that reload quickly, because if they reload quickly, you're going to run out of rounds a lot faster because you're just going to be firing a lot faster. You'll notice that there's no more tanks on this side of the hill. Oh, I guess there is the 110. But you can easily double bush against that tank. One of his buddies showed up. Beautiful target. This is not a good angle. You always want to have the gun over the inside corner of the tank for most tanks, with the exception of tanks that have the turret in the rear. Up to 2100 damage. What that Udis just did is a suicide maneuver. We can easily flank the Udis. All we have to do is drive forward across the water. He's got too many guns pointing at him. He never should have done what he did. And he's out of the game. So not only did I come down here, but two other tanks came with me. The M41 was just taken out of the game, and plus the M41 Bulldog. Oh, I guess it's M4A1. And the J Panther also came in this direction. So we really are dominating in the south. And the score is kind of even. However, I know that we're having a good game here. It's only going to be a matter of time before we advance on the enemy. And the enemy is in very predictable positions. And because of that, I already know how to handle the situation as to where they are. Normally, I don't take this long to make a decision. You really don't want to wait. When you wait, you have no advantage. It gives your enemies a chance to reload. It gives your enemy a chance to reload, a chance to repair. You know, if you're ready to go, make a decision quickly and go. Luckily, one of our tanks took him out of the game. Made it a lot easier for me. But normally I don't do that. That's more of an exception. I should have been able to take him out of the game, especially considering all the hit points I had. Now it was, I believe, 6-5. Now it's 12-6. So suddenly we took a lot of their tanks out of the game. He's probably going to have incoming artillery fire. Now remember, you might wonder, how come the artillery shot so fast? And the reason is it's the end of the game. There's only 3 enemy tanks. They're unspotted. The Allied artillery is probably loaded, waiting to fire. So at the end of the game, when there's few tanks, don't be surprised if you spot an SPG and you get incoming fire from your Allied artillery immediately. It takes approximately 7 seconds for the average SPG to reload in a higher tier. I'm trying to save a little bit on cash, so that's why I didn't use the repair kit. Now, obviously, I have not reloaded. Now, the situation is, I could avoid conflict. It would save me a little bit of money on the repair costs. And the other thing that I could do is keep him spotted. I obviously can't fire at him and try to ram him. But he damaged my engine, so that changes all that. Okay, so that was the game. Obviously, this is an easy win. Got 2,700 damage, 1,700 spotting damage. Yeah, this tank is the 112. This is a Chinese Tier 8 heavy tank. The map is mines. Hopefully, we're going to see some good rear flanking action. Now on this map, normally the way to flank is to head all the way to the west side, close to the red line, go all the way south to the K1 area, and then you should be able to get behind the enemy flank. Now there's going to be a few issues. With the encounter mode, the enemy has to leave the spawn number 2. So what can happen is that the enemy can stay at spawn number 2 and you won't know how many tanks are there. With the regular mode, if they want to go to spawn number 2, they have to head west, and you can get here and spot them on the way west, so you can get an estimate as to how many tanks are on the west side. So in encounter mode, there's no way to know how many tanks are going to be on the west side. You just have to find out by heading forward. So if you go alone, it might be a lot more risky. Now, because we have a 2-on-1 situation, you want to go in, well, the guy's dead. Even though my ally was backing off, we actually had a 3-on-1. It was a perfect situation to advance on the enemy. I am spotted here, so I have to keep on moving. Wow. 400 damage on that tank. I've done 537 spotting damage. One of the reasons why I use coded optics is you get a lot of passive spotting damage, which means you get a lot of passive experience just from being on the map. There's 3 enemy tanks on the hill, according to the mini-map. And I'm talking about the lower part of the hill that we're going to snipe at. So obviously there's many ways to do it. My preference is to head the furthest south possible. You've got some bushes you can hide in, which are right here to the left of my vehicle. You can see I got a clear shot double bushed. There's only 1 tank left on the hill. That means that, it took a long time to get here, and one of the risks that you take with a slow tank, those strange gun movements are because I have a lot of latency, because I play international, I play from South America. Clear shot on that tank. But that was actually pretty good. I did 306 damage, and another tank did the remaining damage on that tank. Score is 8-6. Now the next thing that you have to do is watch where the M41 is going, scout out that area for any snipers that might be in the back. We see 4 enemy tanks on the map plus the SPG. Now there's 3 plus the SPG, which means that there's 2 enemy tanks that have not been spotted yet. There's 2 enemy tank destroyers. There's one of them that was just spotted. He's at the base, so at the spawn, so he might be AFK. Looks like he isn't. Which means that there's 1 more tank that has yet to be spotted. Hopefully he'll be out of the game. And the Jackson has been spotted. As you can see, the SPG might think he's in a safe position, but because he's been flanked, he's been flanked from the rear, so he's out of the game. If we hadn't flanked from the rear, he'd still be in the game. So I did get 2 kills, and we cleaned up all the tanks that were in the rear flank. The Jackson is now out of the game, thanks to the M41 who likely spotted him. It looks like that M41 got 4 kills, and he rode along with me. And that's the game, 15-7. I got 1,400 damage and 640 spotting damage. This tank is a Conqueror. This is a Tier 9 British heavy tank, and the map is El Halouf. I'm going to get 3 kills. I'm going to do 2,400 damage, and I'm going to go through the middle of the map to get to the enemy territory. Put the British flag. This was before I noticed I had made a mistake for some reason. It wasn't on both sides. Now, as you go across, if you get spotted, you just head over here to the right, hide behind this large hill. If not, okay, so I got spotted, so I'm going to head over here to the right. And don't be on this side, because tanks from over there in the distance will still be able to shoot at you. But I did get 747 spotting damage. As you can see, a tank from off in the distance did hit me. Point your gun in the direction of incoming fire so that your stronger armor on the turret is facing the incoming shots. If he hits that side, he's going to do damage easy. Look where he hit me. Knock down trees if you want to do spotting. So that key tank was taken out of the game. The STRV. Very important, because for him to be in the game is a threat for me. It makes it more difficult for me to go across the map. I often sit and watch this gap over here. You can definitely hit tanks, but you never know what's going to happen. You might sit there for a while before tanks go across. Certain tanks will cross. The heavily armored tanks are more likely to cross, or maybe the fast tanks are likely to cross over. But you could also sit there for a long time. Okay, it looks like a tank is about to cross over. I missed them. And if they cross over, the chance that he reverses is very high. And the chance that an ally goes with him is also very high. And they're outside of my spotting range. This is not the only position that you can hit through that gap. You can also hit it if you go a little bit more north to the next sector, which would be the D6 area. Normally, I don't like to sit and not fire my gun. If you don't fire your gun, you're not doing damage. You know, you're not advancing for your team. So I like to keep my gun firing. You'll notice that another key tank was taken out of the game, which is the Object 140, and the reason why is because he's a threat to me. For him to be out of the game makes it easier for me to cross across the middle. Hoping to get shots on those tanks, but unfortunately I'm not having any luck. There was a shot that went up in the air. Could have been an artillery. Got a lot of sniping support. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tanks that could potentially support me if I make an advance through the middle. Oh, looky there. Got one hit. Finally. Yeah, he was just taking a random wild shot. Who knows what he was shooting at. I am going to get 2,400 damage and 3 kills in this game, so there will be more to come. That's the situation you want to be in. He bounced off of me at that distance with the lower penetration hitting my frontal armor, and me being able to shoot at him on the side armor. Missed a shot on that bat, chat. Probably should have gone for it. But just the fact that I spotted him helps out. He's low on hit points, and he's out of the game. Another tank that's a threat is now out of the game. Makes it very easy now for me to cross. Looks like there's another tank, the Object 704. He's out of the game. Normally I would have crossed over through this gap a lot sooner. I don't know why I waited so long. Stay in the bushes as much as possible. Count the number of tanks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's 2 unspotted tanks. And I was right. Remember when I said the SPG fired? It looks like the SPG is in fact in that location. Let's see if it is. No, it is not. Well, he could be there. He's just not spotted yet. Normally I advance through this position. Sometimes I advance that way. If you advance through here, like I said, you can still shoot at tanks. Where's the gap? In that gap over there, from this location. So I could have advanced here a lot sooner and still had shots on that little gap. Score 7-5. Got a lot of snipers backing me up. This is actually excellent coverage. I don't know why I didn't advance earlier. Wow, he did 500 damage to me. But he might also be the last tank on that side. Now you can see that our team is losing where the heavy tanks are, so for me to take such a long time to take action may have had a big impact on the game. We've got we've got 4 tanks over there. I got spotting damage. Only the SPG is unspotted at this point. Hopefully he'll be taken out of the game. Lots of dumb tanks crossing over. I'm spotted and they have no idea. They have no idea that I have the ability to shoot at them. Oh, okay, I guess I wasn't spotted. Scores 10-8. All of their tanks are one-shots, except for possibly the artillery. Keeping an eye on those tanks behind me. If I can get a shot on them, I'm going to take it. I got to advance forward to get that gun elevation. Oh, he's out of the game. So I sat way too long in the middle. I should have advanced a lot sooner. And that FV is probably has less than 100 hit points. Got 2 kills, 2,300 damage, 900 spotting damage. I think he's actually right there. Yep, there he is, and he's out of the game. Okay, so that's the game. This tank is a Tiger 131. This is a German Tier 6 heavy tank. The map is Erlenberg. I'm going to do 1,000 damage. I'm going to get 3 kills. I'm going to do 2,000 spotting damage in this game. This is obviously an encounter game. Now there's a position that I go to. I always point on the mini-map my gun in the direction that I want to head. It allows me to guide myself while I'm driving, to know what objects are going to be in front of me. For example, to find the fastest route through the houses. And of course I'm going to be looking for shots on the poodle. The position I normally go to is the bush right over here in front of the tank. There's lots of reasons why I go to this bush. You can spot from it, you can snipe, you can defend. Now, because the enemy is already spotted, I'm going in the low position to advance because it has a hill on the side to protect you. You want to stay low while you're advancing. And I'm going to try and flank around. We've got these tanks way outnumbered. Oh, I wonder if... That was really weird what was... Oh, okay. That's why. So we got a lot of tanks on my side. It should be very easy to go around and kill off those tanks. Go for the lowest hit point tank first. And this other tank's going to be out of the game. So the score is 4-2. You'll notice that I'm pinging the map, the B2 area, so that my allies know where the enemy SPG is likely to be. So now in this situation, if you look at the mini-map, the enemy owns the west side of the map, and my team owns the east side of the map. Normally I like to advance first for my team, however, this tank is not very fast, so my team is there before I am. And you'll notice that the gun, German's gun tend to aim quickly. However, that shot obviously was not very accurate. We've got an allied tank on the base and an enemy tank on the base. Surprised I didn't do a better job aiming at that tank. But you'll notice, even though the Cromwell and the T-34 are out there, I was the one that spotted that tank. So I got the spotting damage from it. I don't like to use the APCR rounds, so you can see that I'm not going to be able to damage some of these tanks. So I switched to the high explosive rounds. I only did 450 damage, 940 spotting damage. The score is 7-6. Now you'll notice that we have the enemy partially surrounded. That's good for our team and bad for the enemy, of course. I still have my HE rounds loaded. However, I am prepared to switch to regular rounds. Because I shot with an HE round, even if I had missed that tank, there's usually a 1 meter burst radius, so it's still possible to damage the tank or the track even if you miss the tank using an HE round. I made a video in the training room that shows how to do it hit tanks behind the corner, etc. But I never uploaded it. I never put it on my site. The score is 10-8. Now I'm all by myself over here, and there are 2 artilleries on my team. And I am getting spotting damage. So the smart thing to do is to tee him up, hit the T button so that it targets him, and let my allies finish him off. I keep hitting that T button. Try to hit him when he's behind bushes. He was obviously just hit by artillery. Hit him when he's behind the bushes, and he's less likely to spot you. I'm shooting at him and he's not spotting me. I did switch to the APCR rounds. Another artillery shot. Switch to HE rounds. I spotted that tank over there. You'll see if you look in the south, I have an ally, the M4A3E8. He's not in a good position, although there is a light tank over there. But he's way out of the game. So I'm very important for me to stay in the game at this point to help my team. It's a very close game. So he was out in the open. He learned his lesson. He had a lot of shots incoming on him. I got 790 damage, 1800 spotting damage. Another artillery hit just hit that KV-85. It's very important to act fast. Don't sit around and do nothing. If I'm not moving around, there's probably a reason why I was typing on the keyboard, advising my team to spot for the artillery. As you can see, we did lose an artillery, and it's possible we're going to lose another artillery. Those artilleries on my team should have moved north a long time ago, but they had bad situational awareness. They didn't play properly. And it's still a close game. He's got to be taken out. At some point, I'm going to have to use the APCR. I switched to APCR. Got to get that guy. I switched to the high explosive rounds after 3 non-penetrations. $80 damage with the high explosive rounds, less expensive than APCR. 52 damage. So I had 3 non-penetration. 3 failed to penetrate with the APCR. 1 failed to penetrate with the HE. 2 did. Knocked them out of the game. Don't be afraid to use HE round. Experiment with them. Figure out how they work. And that's the end of the game. The base was captured. The score is 14-12. I did 900 damage, 1,898 spotting damage, and I got 3 kills. Yeah, this tank is a Skoda T40. This is a Czechoslovakian Tier 6 medium tank. The map is El Haluf. I'm going to get 3 kills in this game. I'm going to flank the enemy. We're going to have an easy win. If you watch my videos on El Haluf, you know that I have a standard practice where I head for a certain rock, which is basically where I'm pointing the mouse to. And remember, if you get spotted, just head that way. If you don't, continue on to the rock and hide in a bush. And then try engage the enemy. If they send out a scout, you got to sit there. If not, either stay low or stay in the bushes, keep on advancing. If you spot the enemy, hide as quickly as possible. I'm sitting there because no enemy tanks have been spotted. I have no idea what's going to happen, so right now I'm taking a big risk. Know how many snipers you have. I've been spotted. I don't know where the enemy is. Got to find a safe position. The closer you get to solid objects, the safer you are. You'll notice that these tanks appear to already be aiming their guns at me. Just so you know, there was a little ring noise. Took me a while to figure out what that is. I believe it means that you tracked the enemy tank. But I'm not sure because it doesn't say on the damage list that I tracked him, so I don't know for sure. And as you can see, there is a tank shooting at me from behind. You have to have amazing situational awareness. That was a great opportunity I almost missed. And unfortunately for him, it's better for me to shoot him in the rear. Oh, I missed. I did some testing. I have a video about how to set the engine on fire. If you're going to shoot somebody in the rear, number one choice is use high explosive rounds that do a lot of damage with a high burst radius, or APCR. If you use AP rounds, you're the least likely to set the engine on fire. And that is from testing, scientific testing that I did on in the training room. I tested all the different rounds with a few different tanks. Sad that I missed that opportunity. That would have been a big kill. So you advance up here. You'll notice that there's a Hellcat apparently unaware that I'm here. That's the location where you have to be concerned because it's very easy for those tanks to come after you. And again, if they're strongly armored, they're likely to come after you. Don't confront these tanks. Reverse and let your allies take them out. It's way better to go for the spotting damage than to try and damage him yourself. Remember, you can get one shot in, your allies can get 3 or 4 shots in, and your allies can destroy him and erase the threat a lot easier than one single tank can. So try and bait him. Go forward to get him to come out, and reverse if he comes out. Scores 1-0. I still only have 182 damage from that one tank. Remember, that Hellcat is right next to me. You want to keep tanks spotted. If he's not spotted, your allies are going to turn their guns away and they're going to leave and go after different targets. So now I have a second tank I have to potentially worry about, which is a T-34-85M. The Hellcat still has full hit points. And his gun is pointed away from me. So you got to watch every tank in the game. You have to have amazing situational awareness. Now I got a T-25/2 on my team that can assist me. The FV-304 could potentially assist me. You want to keep those tanks spotted. Let your allies soften them up as much as possible. I am playing very cautiously. I don't need to be this far back. If that Hellcat weren't there, I'd be much higher up into the base. You can see that he's out of the game. The artillery took another tank out of the game. So it looks like I got 521 spotting damage on the Hellcat. So I got this almost enough spotting damage to take him out of the game. And he's playing like he doesn't know I'm right behind him. And there was no notification that I was spotted. That means I was already spotted. He had a dangerous threat right behind him. The Hellcat was unaware. He was not paying attention. I was spotted in the game. Looks like an AFK tank because his gun is pointed at the ground. Uh, Both of them are a priority. Oh, there's another tank over there that I didn't notice. Um, you want to take those tanks out because they're going to keep you spotted even if they're AFK. So you can see I didn't notice that T-25 until obviously he hit me for 220 damage. And the score is 11-1. So that was a failure on my part. Score is 13-1. I got 979 damage, 705 spotting damage. Was an easy game. One thing I do know is that my allies, the heavy tanks, they won fairly easily. So obviously we did a good job on our side, but we didn't assist those heavy tanks very much, except for the fact that I was going after that KV-2. And I did kill the Hellcat and that KV-2. Okay, so that's 3 kills, 1180 damage. Score was 15-1. This tank is a Conqueror. This is a British Tier 9 heavy tank. The map is Steppes. I am going to do 3,000 damage. I'm going to get 3 kills. I'm going to get 1,100 EXP. If you watch my videos, you'll know that I like to play going through the middle. If you have a fast tank, the best thing to do is just run across, stay high on the upper level, spot as many tanks as you can. You also should have good spotting range, and then duck down for cover as soon as you spot the enemy tanks. You can see he spotted the enemy tanks at the base, the WZ did, but he could have spotted them a lot faster and a lot sooner if he had just driven across the top. And unfortunately, he got spotted and he got taken out of the game. You really just want to spot and hide, just so your team gets some early intelligence. Even though he spotted those tanks, it's unlikely that he got a lot of spotting damage. You'll notice that I'm looking to see where the enemy SPG is, and I'm pinging the map so that my allies know that there's a possible SPG there. You want to stay low if you don't want to get spotted. Use the bushes so you can spot. And if I advance through the bushes and I don't get spotted, then I know I can keep on going. Would love to kill that tank. He could potentially be a problem. Easy to take him out of the game. Nobody shot at me. He probably does not have snipers defending him. I've only got one sniper backing me up, which is the Waffenträger. Now, if you don't have gun depression, what you're going to do is you're going to go up this way, and you're going to use your gun elevation instead. A lot less vulnerable. When you crest over the hill, the gun goes up in the air and then it comes back down. If you go up the hill this way with the gun pointed in this direction, you don't have that problem. And you're further away, less likely to get spotted. That was a sloppy shot. So now we know that they do have a few tanks that are sniping on their ridge, specifically the Emil. We've already got 1,500 damage, 950 spotting damage. Score is 4-2. Now, the reason why I'm traveling in this direction is because I want that rock in front of me. It's solid protection, and I want to be able to roll into the bush so I can spot anything before they spot me. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure he won't be in the game much longer. Now, to advance, you want to stay low. You've got some rocks up ahead, and I believe it's safer to go on the left. Obviously, that guy's no match for me. I'll take him out of the game really easily, except for the sloppy driving. What I should have done was driven more properly and then rammed him. Only did 7 damage. I could have done much more. I lost my momentum. Notice the angle. I keep that angle as much as possible. That's one of the reasons why I use the auto aim. If you use the auto aim, you keep your gun over the inside corner, and we're going to show you what it looks like. That's the angle. That's a really good angle. Okay, now I was talking about these rocks. It's better to go on the left. And the reason why is because the enemy tends to be on the left, and they're less likely to be able to hit you if you're on the left side of that rock cropping. But that side is now cleared out. All we have is a mopping up operation. I got 2,300 damage, 950 spotting, 2 kills. The score is 10-4. If you hit the gun, you're more likely to damage his gun. It's a very weakly armored tank, so it's very easy to damage a gun on that type of a tank. Now that's because of the latency. That's why that happened. So that was just a crazy shot because of the fact that I play internationally. Right now I am playing from Lima, Peru, and my experience in South America is that the internet is really slow. It's nothing like the United States. Much better in the United States. Okay, so that's the game. I got 3,096 damage, 1,092 spotting damage, and 3 kills. The score was 15-5. This tank is a Conqueror. This is a British Tier 9 heavy tank. The map is Paris. I'm going to get 2,800 damage, 3 kills, and we're going to surround the enemy. Oh, so sorry. Now, if you watch my other videos, you'll know this is actually a nice little position to camp in if you knock these trees down. However, this is not the method that I currently use to go around and do a flank. Could easily kill that tank destroyer. I'm sorry, that SPG, just by firing through the background where you think he might be. Where you think he might be. But I was going to say this is a good spot if you have a tank destroyer. You'll notice it showed the splash off the building in the rear. So I'll be able to tell if I hit that SPG. If he's even still there. A lot of the enemy team is in the south. And we're in a position to surround them. We've got a lot of tanks that could easily surround them. I think it's better to advance on this road here. It's a lot safer to advance to this corner than the road that I took. Obviously, I'm doing a reverse side scrape. It was just to get one shot in. I would like to do a strategy sitting behind these bushes. Hopefully it'll work out. So in the future, expect to see some videos where I'm camping in these bushes. You can sit back here more and use those bushes for cover. Perhaps if you sit right in that area, you get these bushes for cover, but I'm not sure. And there is a little bit of a hill, so you get some a little bit of a hull down position also. This tank with the big gun is really nice once you get the final gun. And you want to keep your gun over the inside corner to get the best angle. Scores 4-3. I've already got 1,200 damage. You can rack up damage really fast with this tank. For example, one shot did 486 damage. This is an example where you can do a hull down position. You can be behind these bushes and just sit here and shoot at any tanks that cross that gap. You can see that we're now starting to surround the enemy. The score is 5-4. Looks like he just crashed. You'll notice that there's a raised object over here. If someone uses the auto aim, it aims for the center of your tank. That's why you approximately where you see that shot that's somewhat centered on the tank. So what you want to do is line up a raised object on the center of your tank, and if they use the auto aim, it increases the chance that they hit that object instead of your tank. And that's a very, very bad angle. Very bad angle. This is the proper angle, but this is for the IS-3, and I'm getting hit by a tank on the side like that. So it's a very bad angle that I'm taking up. Oh, how you handle it. If you have a tank on one side and a tank on the other side, what you're going to do is you're going to put one corner pointing towards one tank and the other corner pointing towards the other tank. That gives you the best angle against two different opponents. So you're going to make a little triangle that's actually it, the angle right there. So I have one corner pointing towards the IS-3 and the other corner pointing in that direction. So that's the best angle to take if you're up against two tanks. I would like to show that more in game. It just doesn't come up as often. You'll notice I always keep that angle, even if so you'll notice that I changed direction while I was driving. I don't drive straight down the road. I zigzag. So I'm going to drive in one angle for a certain amount of time, and then when I want to continue driving, I'm going to switch the angle, and so it's going to make a zigzag pattern, so I always have an angle towards the enemy tank. So the zigzag method is another method you use to improve your angle on your armor. If you want, you can rewind to the position that I mentioned. You can see how I did the little zigzag. I had APCR rounds loaded, so that was an easy kill. That's 2,800 damage, 900 spotting damage, and 3 kills. Yeah, this tank is the Batchat 25 TAP. It's a French Tier 9 medium tank, and the map is Karelia. This is actually, it's one of my favorite tanks in the game. I actually don't have it anymore. I sold it last week. This was one of the last games that I played. I am going to get 2,300 damage. I'm going to get 4 kills. Hopefully we're going to see some good flanking action. You'll notice that I was spotted, and I do have binocs. So I'm going to sit here and do some passive spotting. Hope that my allies do some damage. I'm not reloaded yet, so I can't fire the gun. Didn't go very far into the field. Normally I go a lot farther. The technique that I'm using in this particular game, advancing from one bush to the next bush, turn on the binocs, advance again, turn on the binocs. Look at where he is on the minimap. He's over the slope, and I'm able to shoot at him. This tank does not have a lot of ammo, so remember to aim in fully, get the gun laying drive and the V-stab so that you aim more accurately and are more careful with your shots. Now obviously spotting has dried up in this location. You don't want to sit here too long. You want to keep on moving and keep on spotting so that your allies always have targets to shoot at. Otherwise they might move on. Because I have the binocs, I have to stop for a few seconds, wait for them to turn on. Didn't spot anything, so I'm going to keep on moving to the next position. You'll notice I have a high ping time, 490 milliseconds, I believe it was. Don't assume that the base is clear. I've had games, tank destroyers will sit up on that base. Very risky. If I shoot at him, I will get spotted. So you can shoot, you just have to have an escape plan. Know where you're going to go. I thought he was going to drive north, which is why I shot at him, because if you hit them in the tail, they're not going to spot you. But unfortunately, I did get spotted. Got 1,200 damage so far. Score is 3-2. Normally, I wouldn't go down into this location. This is a defensive position. If I go down here, it's because I'm worried about protecting my tank. You go low to stay secure, and you stay high to spot. Now, they've got a lot of tanks that haven't been spotted yet, so they must have tanks at their base. And I don't have anyone to cover me except for the Tiger P, possibly, maybe the Object 704, but he's busy with other tanks, so he's probably not going to be able to assist me. One thing you can do in this type of situation, where the STA-1 is and the T-54E1, I could go and help them, and we could easily clean up on that flank. You'll notice that I turned to avoid the artillery in case he fired at me. I didn't drive directly at him. When he turned his gun, I turned to the left. I'm not going to ride on the cap. You only go on the cap if you intend to cap or if you want to force the enemy to come back to the cap. Because if you go on the cap, then the enemy knows where your position is. And I was just spotted, but there's people that don't pay attention anyway to the minimap. So stay off the cap as much as you can. So here we're going to set up a rear flank. I've got 1,900 damage. Let's see how they react to this. Only had 2 shots. The Panther was obviously aware that I was heading in this direction. Got 2290 damage. Scores 11-6. Running low on ammo. Got 3 reloads left. So the T-29 is out of the game, which means there's only one tank left, which is a T-54E1. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get any more shots in. Now, the score is 14-7, and normally you'd think that just rush in and kill the guy. However, you still want to play with teamwork, because if the T-25 goes in and I rush in and the next tank rushes in, it could easily turn into a 2-on-1 situation. So always play with teamwork. Whenever you can gang up on the enemy, gang up on the enemy. In this situation, by capping, I force the enemy to return to the cap. Because he did kill the Tiger too. So I force him to come back to the cap. He's unlikely to return to the cap in time. And don't worry about, there's people that say kill all, don't cap. If I sit on the cap as part of the game, I'm going to keep the points that I've earned. Sometimes I will get off the cap. I used to do it, but I don't do it anymore. If they want to win the game, they should kill the guy, All those tanks that are going to see, like someone is saying no cap, and he's not even in the game as far as I know. That's the tank that was killed. But these 3 remaining tank destroyers in the Tiger 1, some of them were sitting at base camping. Why should I not cap for them? If they want to kill the guy, have them go out and kill the guy. So that's the end of the replay. I guess we won by capping. That was 2290 damage and 4 kills. Yeah, this tank is the Chrysler GF. This is an American Tier 8 heavy tank, and the map is Swamp. I am going to get 2,000 damage, and I'm going to do a flanking maneuver. If you watch my previous videos, you're going to have an idea of the type of flanking maneuver that I like to play on this map. This tank does not have good gun depression, so it's difficult to play over a ridge line unless you're reversing on the ridge line and using your gun elevation. This tank is also a top-tier tank. So my armor is stronger than almost every other tank in the game. Let's see what the threats are. I don't think there's any threats in the game. As long as I keep my frontal armor pointed at the enemy, I'll be fine. So when I see that, I play a lot more aggressively. You can see I've got a Panther backing me up, and the T-26E4 potentially backing me up. AT-8 is moving into position, and there's a Cromwell. So I've got some sniping support. If you've got one tank sniping on your behalf, that's usually good. If you have 0, then that's always really bad. When you have 0, you're going to have trouble. You'll notice I'm turning my entire tank around because it makes the gun turn faster. You can see now I have 4 tanks backing me up, sniping. What you can do if you have a problem with your gun depression is go up this hill. Use this hill and ride up this hill and use that to get your gun elevation or your gun depression higher. Obviously, I'm taking some incoming fire. I got 2 incoming artillery hits from the FV-304. And that was the 3rd one. And that was the 4th one. He is doing the smart thing to go after me. The mistake that I made was apparently Wow, 154. He did a lot of damage against me. Yeah, it's sad that I missed. I do want to add something. Because the game is changing, they're adding some larger maps, such as the Grand Battles. You're going to be doing more long-range firing in the higher tiers, especially Tier 10. So you're going to need the gun-laying drive and the vertical stabilizer, as opposed to the what is it called? The gun rammer. So that's one of the pieces of equipment you're going to need to switch to when you get to higher tiers. I could easily set his tank on fire. So that shows you how you can hit tanks in that position. Because of the position that the enemy takes up, you usually, like where this Pershing is, you usually can't get a lot of shots against them because they're behind that big hill over there. So the FV-304 sent me packing. You'll hear me talk in other videos about a second position to snipe from. And the position I'm referring to is absolutely right here. Literally right here on the ground, not in the water, next to this hill. So tanks that are up on this position cannot hit you when you're positioned right there. And from sitting there, you can snipe at those tanks that are off there in the distance. And it works from both sides. So that's an alternate sniping position you can use. The score is 8-2. I got 1,000 damage. Nine to 2. He did a lot of damage on me on that shot. Flubbed that shot. It happens. Score is 12-2. I got 2,000 damage. 1,500 blocked by armor. That's probably going to be the end of the game for me, so let's move on to the next video. This tank is the M6A2E1. This is an American Tier 8 heavy tank. The map is Kharkov. Yeah, Kharkov. This tank is called the Mutant. It's got a T1 heavy or M6 body, and I don't remember what type of turret it has. It looks like it's a fun tank, but to be honest, it's not the greatest tank in the world. I am top tier, and in this situation, I'm going to have a great game. However, as for a Tier 8 tank, there's lots of Tier 8 premium tanks that are better than this tank. So if you have a chance to get one, don't worry if you don't get a chance to get one. I am going to try to advance as quickly as possible on this game. Now remember, he can only point his gun at one tank, and he's got a couple of tanks in front of him. So the idea is to get around him, get behind him. Number one, he's got to turn his gun around, which takes time. It uses up time, prevents him from shooting. His gun is not pointed at a tank that he can shoot at. So I've wasted a little bit of his time, even though he might be reloading anyway. Number two, it allows my allies to go in, even though, you know, it is a Scorpion, he is lightly armored, he is going to be a little bit conservative about going in, but he will take shots. So you got to go in and do these maneuvers. And notice, even though it's difficult, I have this funny driving because the ideal thing to do is to turn my frontal armor to face that tank. And don't block your allies. Now notice that it said target acquired after I made that shot. I was aiming manually while I was zoomed out without using the sniper mode. So he's out of the game. Wow, I've only got 82 hit points left. Did 600 damage. Oh, that sucks. I always go for the ram. Notice that I already set up, while I was waiting and reloading, I set up an angle to make it easier to bounce shots that are incoming. The score is 5-5. You'll notice that I always keep a good angle and go for the ram. By going for the ram, I was able to kill him before I was reloaded, which means obviously that I reduce the chance that he shoots at me, and it allows me to keep my gun already loaded. I don't have to wait 8 seconds to reload again. That's the advantages of ramming. There was one game where I had two opponents, and I rammed one and shot the other. It was on Sacred Valley. You'll notice I always keep a good angle, always keep the gun over the inside corner. That's what the angle is going to look like to the enemy. You'll notice that my ally, well, okay, so it doesn't matter right now, but I keep that angle all the time. As soon as I go around the corner, I'm going to fix that angle. That's a trickier situation because I had allies around me, but I always keep that angle. The score was 15-8. I got 4 kills, did 1,800 damage, and I did a lot of that damage with only 82 hit points. Yeah, this is Dave from cheapbooks.com playing World of Tanks. The tank is the T-49. This is an American Tier 9 light tank, and the map is Ruinberg. Now, this is a unique game. What's going to happen is the enemy is not going to defend the field properly, and because they're not going to defend the field properly, we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to have an easy win here. So as you can see, the enemy, I went to my normal position, which is near the middle of the map. If I hadn't been confronted by the enemy T-49, I probably would have taken up a spotting position. Or if I had a tank with a more accurate gun on it, I would have assaulted the T-49. But this tank doesn't have a good gun on it. So I decided to take up a different position. And you'll notice I have really good coverage on this. I see the enemy SPG, we see a tank destroyer, and the STA-1. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 or 8 tanks in the field, and it looks like the field is very lightly defended. So score is already 2-0. What's going to happen is we're basically going to roll through the field and take advantage. Now, you've heard the expression about being a lemming, and they say, you know, don't lemming in the game. And there's a reason why you don't do it. If you play as a lemming, what happens is you allow the enemy to set you up with crossfire by hitting you on the frontal flank and a side flank. So I noticed that the enemy tank destroyer was leaving the area. The STA-1 was leaving the area. My allies started advancing. I could have taken a far more advanced position. I could have easily headed further south. The score is still 2-0. I got 988 spotting damage. Now this position, you want to be a little bit back. You can shoot down this road here. T-49 is not a good tank for doing this type of thing, but this is where I like to play. You don't want to be where my ally is, the T-26E5. You want to be in this group of bushes over here. I was near the road, which is why I got spotted. So try to make sure you're double bushed and have, in this case, I would recommend at least 3 bushes in front of you. Any tank that goes through that middle road is going to get sniped on. So I'm taking up a new position. I'm heading towards the enemy base. You have to maneuver the mouse so that you can see the hit points. I was able to scan the hit points of the Yoho. So I know he's at around half health right now as I'm coming in. Picking which target I'm going to go for. Ideally, you want to hit them on the rear. It looks like I received 390 damage by hitting that tank. When you have a light tank, you want to avoid ramming other tanks unless they are also light tanks. One of the issues with this type of a tank, you're going to see people get lucky shots in from a distance. They shoot that gun and they one-shot somebody, but it's actually very rare to have that happen with the T-49. Usually you have to be as close as possible. And when I was playing the frontline mode, the 9-sector map, 30 by 30, I learned a hard lesson. Even at close range, I was missing a lot of shots. But I was also playing with 300 millisecond latency, with 300 millisecond ping time. So you do have to be careful when you're going fast and you're at close range. You want to have the stabilizer on this tank if you want to play the hit and run type tactics. And you'll notice what I did.